Hello, everyone out there in podcast land, and welcome to the Front Row Movie. I guess it's called Network now if we ever change our website. Craig, get on that.
I don't do websites.
Okay, well, whatever it is, Network Movie Reviews, I don't know what the hell it is anymore. But hello, and welcome to our Front Row Flashbacks. Somewhere between claymation and CGI, there is a couple decades of movies that some people call classics, but at least everyone will call them a flashback. I am Scott, and with me today is
Ryan
and Craig.
And we are here to talk
What's
about...
funny is that we have a brother named Ryan, but this is not him.
No.
So it's like the whole family is here together, except for Ryan is an imposter.
We're all together, except for not really.
Happy Father's Day.
This is dropping on Thursday, so belated Father's Day. But yes,
happy belated Father's Day to you.
Yeah, Ludens is not cool enough to be a dad, so.
Not yet. I get married in October.
Yeah.
You're not one of those people that think that that they're a dad because they have a pet, right?
Right.
Those people today. Oh, those people. Oh,
I was really hoping I can get a leash.
You want to get me on a rant? Talk about pet dads, fur dads. The hell's a fur dad?
We were thinking about getting a dog, but
a fur dad sounds like some kind of odd kink.
Yeah, I don't know what you're into, Craig, but
okay, well,
happy start.
We're off to a rip-roaring start here.
So if you actually listen to these in order, I mentioned that we were going to be talking about a movie where Batman and an Ewok got together, and that's definitely not happening tonight. Because I realized after the fact that Jurassic World, The Lost Kingdom, or as I like to put it, The Lost World Jurassic Park, because it's the same goddamn movie, is coming out this week. So we decided to go ahead and return to the original, and may I say the only classic of the franchise, and that is Steven Spielberg's 1993 Jurassic Park. So we are here today to talk about that film, and of course, we'll talk a little bit about the sequels, including Jurassic World, and the plan is if people will actually go see the film this week. I know I'm planning on doing it. Ryan, you're planning on doing it. Craig is not, because it's not animated. We will be doing a full disclosure of Jurassic World sooner rather than later. I don't want to put a date on it because we're terrible about that stuff. So let's go ahead and start with our first impressions of Jurassic World, and we'll go with Craig.
We are doing Jurassic Park, right?
Because son of a bitch, yes.
Yeah, and the second movie is called Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom.
Actually, you know what?
Is it? I definitely put Lost Kingdom on our Facebook post.
Speaking of Jurassic World, it was the third ever episode of the Front Row Movie Reviews, which of course is now the Front Row Network. So if you go way back in our feed, you can find it back there. And I think it was Tim, Jeremy, and I talking about how much Chris Pratt love we had during that movie. So Jurassic Park, my first impression of it came out when I was about 10 years old. And so it was one of those movies. It was one of the first movies that I got to really see and remember in theater. And I just remember being in absolute awe that first time that the score wells up and you see the dinosaurs for the first time. And what's incredible about this movie is that nearly every time I've seen it subsequently, that scene is still just as impactful. It's so great. And I was telling Scott, I was messaging him because I went back and watched this on Friday in preparation for this podcast, and everything holds up. Like, I get that, Spielberg used a lot more puppetry than he did CGI, and I know we'll get into that. But because he did that, because he made that choice, it holds up. Like, it doesn't have that same, like, chintzy, like, even I was watching Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and there was a really choppy CGI scene, and it kind of takes you out of it for a second. But Jurassic Park doesn't have that. And as far as the story, I think Michael Crichton provided a great framework of a story there for them, and really enjoyed the characters. It's one of those that, not necessarily one of my all-time favorites, but it's definitely a reliable movie that I like to go back to every now and then.
Ryan, how about you?
June 11th was a big day for me. It was birthday weekend for me, born June 19th, so Tuesday's my birthday. So I'm really excited because Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, the original Jurassic Park, came out around my birthday. But 7-year-old kid going to see this movie really blew my mind. Like I just loved dinosaurs. I just loved everything about being a kid and having that adventurous type of mindset. But seeing this movie, I was in awe and I was captured. Since then, that movie has been one of my all-time favorites. I'm a big Spielberg guy. Jaws is my all-time favorite, and Jurassic Park, of course, is up there. But this movie came out in a time when I was really starting to get into movies, and I really appreciated with Jurassic Park at that age is the adventure I was on. Regardless of what I know now, like Craig said, it holds up. I go back and watch, and I catch new things, and I see things, and I'm like, okay, my 7-year-old self never would have seen that. But me right now, it makes me appreciate the movie more. Like now, one of my favorite scenes doesn't have to do with dinosaurs. It's the scene between John Hammond and Ellie Sattler when they're talking over melting ice cream, and I'll get into that later. But the fact that this movie stands over time, 25 years later, and they're still making sequels, they might be redigested ideas. Fallen Kingdom kind of having ties to Lost World, Jurassic Park. But for me, the original stands out as a movie that captured the mind of a 7-year-old kid to be adventurous. And that movie has always stuck with me in that sense. And it's really helped my appreciation for movies.
Yep. Well, and for me, Craig and I saw this one in the theater together. Our dad took us. I actually think it would have been a double feature because they used to do that. And I can't remember I can't remember what the second movie was, but
probably had to do with sharks.
It was at that theater over by the Venture, which the Venture is gone, and now the theater is a bridal shop. So that's kind of depressing.
What do they call it? Nova 6.
Yeah, it's no longer there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was the cheapo theater.
$5.
But I am always the guy who harps on bad CGI, and I usually use this. Your cat is playing with your headphones, is he not?
No, it's just me.
Oh,
sorry.
Well, you're as bad as a cat. I usually use this film as an example of why you don't need to use CGI all the time. And as you guys have already mentioned, the just the look of this movie when it first came out, it was something that no one had ever seen before. When you first get a look at the Brachiosaurus, which now Brachiosauruses don't exist, but back then they did. We found out it was a couple different fossils thrown together, but whatever. So when you see the Brachiosaurus the first time, it's just amazing because they do that so well where they build up the tension. You see the Velociraptor eat the guy, but you never see the Velociraptor. And then you see the faces of Sam Neill and Laura Dern just looking at this thing and finally panning around and seeing not only the Brachiosaur but the entire world after that, and it holds up so well. After watching again, there's a couple scenes where you can see the blue screen, but really there's not much that just kind of stands out as being. This movie is 25 years old this year, and it's hard to even imagine that. The other thing that amazes me is obviously Spielberg is one of the greatest directors of all time. But when he was editing this film, he was filming Schindler's List. He was filming Schindler's List during the day and editing this film at night. And he even said in an interview that it was probably a bad decision because it was such a change in theme and change in dynamic that it really stressed him out to a point where he almost just lost his mind halfway through. But it's just amazing that this guy could be doing those two films at the exact same time. It just shows you how much of an amazing director this guy is.
Just because I literally just listened to this, I'm listening to a great audiobook about, it's a biography on Robin Williams. And turns out that during Schindler's List, during the filming of that, Spielberg would call Robin Williams and have him just do impressions and voices for him just to try to get out of a glum mood after a day of shooting. Isn't that funny? Like, he would just call him and be like, buddy, I just need you to talk. So
that sounds about right. God, I miss Robin
So
Williams.
it would have been about the same time as this. So, yeah. But no, I can't recommend. It's a brand new biography on Robin Williams. I listen to all my books on Audible because reading is so 1995. But I really, really enjoy that book. So I would highly recommend it. Sorry for the tangent.
Speaking of reading being 1995, or in this case 1993, this is one of the few films that I watched and immediately had to dive into the books by Michael Crichton as soon as I got out of the theater. I read Jurassic Park, which is a pretty different book, and I'm sure we'll hit on a couple of the differences as we go. But then I immediately dove into Lost World, and Lost World, the book, is a lot better than the film.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And as I've already said a couple times, it looks like Jurassic World 2 is going to be copying off of Lost World. I hope they copy off the book and not the film. just saying. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the things that we like the most out of this film. And let's try not to filibuster each other. So one thing at a time. We'll discuss the one thing, and then we'll go on to something else. Because we tend to list out everything, and then we're done. So let's go to Ryan first.
To me, number one thing is the animatronics. Having Stan Winston, God rest his soul, who is excellent makeup artist. He won an Oscar, Best Visual Effects, both for, they won the visuals and they kind of shared it between Stan and the CGI department. But the fact that they actually had realistic dinosaurs, things that you could see, I can only imagine what that would be like filming. Using that type, he did it for Jaws and it was a big problem, but it worked out in the end. I think this was it too, because it helped branch into CGI. So, so like those big pan shots, like, you first introduce the T-Rex by eating the goat, and that's all practical. And then when you see that bigger frame and he's eating the wires and stomping out, that's CGI, and it's flawless. So it's, for me, the number one thing that I liked is the fact that they had these animatronic dinosaurs, from the raptors to the Rex to the Triceratops to the Dilophosaurus. Everything was great in terms of that respect. But the CGI too, you can still notice some things here and there, but it was really well done. Like the whole chase scene with the T-Rex was good. The Brachiosaurus, like we mentioned when you first see it in that buildup. But even when he says "Welcome to Jurassic Park" and there's that buildup again, and you just see the dinosaurs like living, like, awesome shot. So for me, it was the practical and CGI effects was the number one thing that stood out for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's and the CGI is done well enough to where you don't even notice when the CGI is happening. I think a couple of them were the Velociraptor movements was potentially a little bit of a mix. But, I even go back to Jurassic World. The scene that strikes me the most in that movie is when they're dealing with the dinosaur that has been attacked by the whatever the flick that thing is, the
Indominus Rex.
Whatever. Frankenstein dinosaur. And the dinosaur's dying in Chris Pratt's arms. That's practical, and that looks great. So, I mean, it just goes to show that practicality continues on 25 years later. But and Stan Winston, I mean, the guy's amazing. The Terminator, I mean, basically this dude designed your childhood. If you saw special effects,
it was him.
In the 80s and 90s, it was him, and into the 2000s. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Craig, what do you got?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about Sam Neill because Dr. Grant, for me, I'm going back through and like people that listen to us normally and regularly, they'll go like, what the hell, man, we get it, you're a dad, whatever. But when you go back and watch some of these movies now, as a parent, I think I appreciate more the writing and the arcs that go into certain things. And one of them was how at the beginning, Dr. Grant could not wait to get away from these kids, and he was trying to get out of the car. He actually turned to Tim and was like, hey, which car are you planning on going in? The kid's like, whatever one you're going into. And he just kind of gives this look like, oh, hell. So But then throughout the whole story, you see them together, and you just see him develop this character. I absolutely love the character of Dr. Grant, and it's one of those where doing just a bit of IMDbing beforehand, the part was originally going to be offered to Harrison Ford, and I just don't think that Harrison could have pulled that off. And it's not something that I necessarily appreciated on the first, second, third, or fifth viewing of this, but I really enjoyed it this time. The character arc that is Dr. Grant, and kind of that cold exterior melting away a bit by these kids and by wanting to make sure that they survive. So really enjoyed his acting and his role in this film.
I'll go one for one. Yeah, Sam Neill is a great actor. I love the dichotomy of Sam Neill, because he can do this film, and just a few years later he's going to do Event Horizon, which so you've got warm and fuzzy Sam Neill, who learns how to deal with kids and learns how to deal with dinosaurs at the same time, and then you've got demon Sam Neill.
With his eyes gouged out.
And those are the two Sam Neills I always think about. And I will say he's my favorite character in this film as well too. And he's the reason why, believe it or not, and I mean it's not a good movie, but I like Jurassic Park 3 more than I like Jurassic Park 2, and it's just because they bring Sam Neill back. Mm-hmm. There's not much else to say about that movie, but it at least gives me a character I can care about, because Ian Malcolm was never somebody I really enjoyed. I think it's because I never really get into Jeff Goldblum, his shtick. I mean, everyone's like raving about him in Thor Ragnarok, and I thought he was the worst thing about Thor Ragnarok, so that's just me. But I will say, going off what you said, Craig, I think the ensemble cast in here is really just good. I mean, Richard Attenborough as Hammond is amazing. I remember Richard Attenborough from The Great Escape when he was X, the planner of the tunnels. And he's an amazing actor. And of course, people also know him from the remake of Miracle on 34th Street, which everyone can listen to our, I don't know if it was a flashback or a classic or something. We discussed that a while ago, and he was the only thing good in that. But Laura Dern is great in this as well. She's got, and I was telling, as Craig was saying, we had this side conversation a few days ago. The big difference for me that makes this film very, very good and makes the other films just kind of popcorn flicks, if that, is the chemistry between Laura Dern and Sam Neill, because you can tell that those two care about each other. You can tell that they have worked together for years and years and years, and now they're planning on having a family together. And it's a very good relationship. And also, Laura Dern gets to do stuff in this film. She's able to, I mean, we even have the little scene with Hammond and her when Hammond says, "I should go because I'm the guy." But it's a great scene, and it's a great use of that character. But you've also got some great side characters. Obviously, Newman.
Wayne Knight.
Yeah, he's Newman.
All right, can we talk about Newman for a minute here? This go around, I absolutely hated him. Like having been removed from Seinfeld for a while, I was like, what the hell is this overacting fat guy doing? I mean,
he's overacting. That's his job.
I was going to say, I'm sorry you brought him up, but I was going to save him for what didn't work for me, because again, I've seen this movie so many times, but I really wanted to focus in on different things that I enjoyed and didn't enjoy for this podcast this last time I watched. And he stuck out, that scene. I knew what was going to happen with the spitting dinosaurs, but I was rooting for him. I was like, just take him out. Get it over. End his overactingness, God, Wayne Knight, man. He, and I get it, like, his pinnacle movie was Space Jam, and that was, a little bit later, but like, just too much on the acting, Newman.
Yeah.
Newman.
I was actually going to go the other route. Newman was always a character for me that didn't. Newman. I'm sorry, Dennis Nedry was a character I didn't like. But this time, as watching, and I probably haven't seen Jurassic Park all the way through, especially with a reviewer's eyes, in probably close to 2 decades. And watching it this time, there's a lot of backstory that they give to Nedry that you didn't really catch when you were a kid. One is, it sounds like he's completely broke off his ass to a point where he has asked Hammond several times for a raise. Hammond won't do it. And Hammond being
your financial problems are your own.
Yeah, I mean, what boss says that to a guy? I don't care if you're
same one that says,
well, I mean,
our lives are in hands and you have butterfingers.
Well, I mean, if it's a subcontractor, this subcontractor's like, you need to pay me more because I can't manage my money. I'd probably tell him to go to hell too, and I'd probably tell him to take an acting class.
But this subcontractor is the guy who set up your entire system. He's like the main guy. He's the only one who, well, except for Sam Jackson, which I was going to get to in a minute too. He's the only guy who knows the system. So you probably want to make sure he's not going to sell your secrets to the other company. Which the other company gets, they go into much more detail in the book. But I mean, the whole idea is there's another company that's out there trying to steal these secrets. And the future films hint at it, but at this point it sounds like Engine's just become the evil company and they've kind of sidelined the other company. But then I was also going to say Sam Jackson, and this is one of the first films that cements him as like the most money-making actor of all time in terms of being in franchises that make money, because this guy's got Jurassic Park, he's got Star Wars, he's
there, man.
He's got Marvel, obviously. Yeah, he's got Incredibles too. But yeah, it's so the characters there are really good. I mean, you got the blood-sucking lawyer who gets 8. It's enjoyable to watch. There's just a lot of archetypes that do work well, and it's a really small cast when you look at it. There's not that many speaking parts in this film, and it allows them to spend more time with those characters and build them up, for better or worse, Craig, and gives us more time with the dinosaurs because we don't have to deal with 15 different characters. We're just going to deal with the dinosaurs.
You know, I just want to say too, with the act, it's twofold with this. It's the acting and it's the characters. Got these great characters, but then you've got these great actors who bring them to life. I mean, Manuel Ferrero, who plays the lawyer, I mean, he seems like a sleazeball to me. You know, and Lex and Tim, 2 kids that, you know, are just there to have fun and love their grandpa. Everything was believable in terms of the acting and the characters. Even Newman's bumbling, stupid self.
I just love that we call him Newman.
Well, that's who he is. I mean, the dude's been typecast for forever. I'm sorry, but that's just who you are. So let's go ahead and we will talk about things we didn't like here in a bit, but let's talk about some of the scenes that we really enjoyed. Craig, give me a couple or 1 or 2 scenes that really stand out for you.
Well, I already mentioned the first reveal of the dinosaurs, right? I mean, it's just absolutely incredible to just the scope that you see, and then that score, still one of the best film scores ever to me. There's a really great version of it by the Piano Guys, by the way, if you check those out on Spotify. But wonderful, just really sweeping. You get to see that whole field, and you get to see the huge, what I'm trying to think of the name of that huge dinosaur that they see. It starts with P.
Brachiosaurus?
Brachiosaurus.
Is it a Brachiosaurus?
Yeah,
So it doesn't start with P. Okay, whatever.
The long neck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Littlefoot from The Land Before Time.
Right.
Which I'm going to do as a flashback one of these days.
But, and then, I mean, as far as other scenes, you've that first attack scene with the T-Rex. Like, it's kind of the juxtaposition of this beauty that is established by Hammond, and then it all starting to crumble and be torn apart because these are creatures that we really know nothing about, truly. I mean, we know from what science has put together through their bones and their genetics and all of that, but we really truly have never been able to witness what they would do in action until we throw them all on this island. So I enjoy the juxtaposition of the hope of this whole plan succeeding and then the terrified suspense of that first T-Rex scene.
Yeah, and just to go off the John Williams score, the final scene where they're flying away in the helicopter, for one, in the book, they're flying away with pterodactyls following them behind them too. But they kind of play with that in the future films. But that scene it is really amazing. A couple of different things. You have all the characters who have been through hell and back, so it's a good bookend to one of the first scenes where they're flying in. And you got Neil, who's had his character arc, and he's got the two kids laying next to him. He's looking off at Dern, who obviously they're making the connection that okay, you now you can be a good father, and that stirring score is just amazing.
It's those piano notes. It's just all
yeah.
So, what was that again? Right.
Hey.
I didn't know if that was John Williams or Howell. I don't know.
It was Howell.
Okay.
All right. For me, I can say, for me, when I look at my favorite scenes, I can say what I liked as a kid and then what I like now watching Jurassic Park all over again because I'm a big nerd and I'm actually watching all the films before I go see the new one. For me as a kid, one of my favorite scenes is when Lex gets sneezed on by the Brachiosaur. And Tim goes up and goes, "God bless you." I mean, I can relate to that because, that would have been what I would have said when I was younger. But for me, Spielberg is a master of suspense and building suspense. And what he did to introduce seeing the Raptors for the first time and their suspenseful moments scared the crap out of me as a kid. You're just sitting there minding your business, think you're about to make a kill, and all of a sudden, clever girl, and you're dead. And then Ellie Sattler thinks she's victorious, got the lights back on, they did it, and she's about to get ripped apart by a Velociraptor behind her. She thinks she's winning again, and all of a sudden Sam Jackson's arm falls on her, which I don't know how it got up there, but it was up there. So, I mean, just the way that he built that suspense, those terrifying moments, you're like, oh, you saw the T-Rex, the big bad, but these are the ones you really should be watching out for. He did a really good job with those suspenseful moments. As an older as I've grown up, like I said earlier, the scene where he's having a conversation with Dr. Sattler and John Hammond, and they're talking about, what are you doing, Craig?
I was trying not to. This is Tim now.
That's Tim now. Yep, he was in the Pacific. Awesome miniseries. But just how they're talking about the reality and how it's out there now. And that's a real big allegory for science. And once you have this genie in a bottle and you let it out, nothing else is going to keep it caged. And that's where you kind of see how these future movies pan out. So there was illusion versus reality. I really enjoyed that conversation now as an adult. So.
Yeah, that's another thing for me too. And it's really hit on in the books as well. But for the film, they do it too. And that is the science behind this. And that's why I love the Disney. Would you put that thing off the screen, you creep?
What are you talking about? This is just me.
This is going to go over real well in the audio podcast.
That's the most ridiculous headshot. I'm sorry.
Look, as I was saying.
Even his shirt is unlaundered. It's whatever. It's nice.
His sleeves rolled up. Look at my guns.
Real rebel without a cause there, Tim. Sorry.
Go ahead.
As I was saying, one of my favorite scenes is that whole introduction to the park, kind of the Disney World tram ride. It's actually set up just like oh my god, Carousel of Tomorrow.
Carousel of Progress.
Carousel of Progress, thank you. It's the same kind of thing. As you watch it, the theater seats move, the theater does not move. And I love the introduction with Mr.
They're
DNA.
getting up. Can they do that?
Yeah. Again, security was done by Dennis Nedry. That's all you need to know. But you got Mr. DNA, who makes a cameo in Jurassic World, and then you have the continuing on that scene with the doctors, not the doctors, but the geneticists working on all of that. And it's a great introduction to it. The science is really fluky. By the way, we've never found mosquitoes in amber, but it's a fun idea, and I enjoy that one a lot. And then, as you guys have already mentioned, for me, the reveal scene at the beginning is amazing. And I think the only other one I would hit on that I don't think you guys have hit on yet, and that is the chase scene with you when you got Ian Malcolm in the back, and obviously the scene that was used for all the just the marketing after the fact, and that is with the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the side view mirror, and it says objects in mirror closer than they appear. And the entire thing is fun with their banter as they're driving and trying not to be eaten. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I agree. I also like, Ryan was getting into this a little bit, but the just the interaction amongst folks, like the script is really well written. So this is a movie that could easily rest on its laurels and say, you see that big ass T-Rex, we're going to put it in this movie a bunch, and you guys are just going to give us your money. But it's actually pretty well written. I mean, like it. I poked fun at Newman earlier, but for the most part, I enjoy the script. I like the idea. I like the give and take. I like that the whole premise makes sense to me, that the insurance company is like, whoa. We did, I guess, this whole dinosaur thing through, so that's what instigates them bringing on these botanists and these paleontologists and, the people that are actually in the field studying this. It's a cool concept, a cool premise. And I guess most of that goes to Michael Crichton, but the screenplay and the dialogue is written really well amongst the characters. So I enjoy the just overall interaction and the overall writing of the film.
Any other scenes you guys want to hit on? All right, let's go ahead and talk about things that didn't work, because Craig's already opened the floodgates on that.
Sorry, Newman.
Ryan, what are some things that didn't work for you?
For me, I want to say the mistreatment of how they went forward with the sequels, but we'll talk about that later.
This is the film we're talking about now.
Right.
Wait, Hollywood wanted to make money?
Right. No, but stuff I didn't like. I would have loved to seen more of Sam Jackson. I as a 7-year-old, I had no idea who he was, but knowing what I know now of Sam Jackson, I would at least wanted a motherfucker in there. But
now he's Frozone.
Yeah, now he's Frozone. I mean, Marvel even alluded to it at the very end of Infinity War. I mean, it's what he's known for. But I mean, again, like Scott said, that was just the start of his bubble, and he was beginning to burst because now he's everywhere. You introduce when you say you're going to do a dinosaur movie, you expect to see more, and I think that's why other movies are oversaturated with more and more dinosaurs. But it's one of those things when you're watching it, it's like, okay, so there's only 3 different types of dinosaurs here. You have a T-Rex, a Velociraptor, the long necks, and the ones with the weird head. I mean, that's all you get. So,
you got the chicken guys ones too.
What was that?
The chicken ones, the ones that run in the herd.
Oh, the Gallimimus.
Yes.
Okay, so there's that. But it's like, okay, how are you going to see these? Because if these are all, if Sam Neill is in the T-Rex paddock and these Gallimimus are there, how are people going to see this? So, I mean, there was a few plot holes. Like, okay, how are you going to be sure to see all these animals? And if these Gallimimuses are in the T-Rex paddock, the T-Rex is going to hunt and not really come to the fence. And you have a goat sitting there. Well, how is the goat going to get the attention of a giant T-Rex? If his vision's based on movement and you have a teeny tiny little goat that's not doing anything like it was in the movie, how are you going to get its attention? So there's just a few plot holes that as an adult now I'm like, well, there's this and then there's that. But overall, I saw this movie when I was 7 and it captured my heart. It will be one of my favorite times. So I don't really have much to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're going with there. I'm not gonna lie.
That's just me loving the movie and thinking outside the box. It's okay. So there's
something about a goat,
right? Sorry, tangent.
No, I mean, there are some things in there, and again, I chalk them up to Newman was running security. Like they even point out, I told you we should have put locks on those electric cars. I'm like, yeah, because any theme park ever is not going to put locks on their cars. it also locks on their ride so they can push it up. But it's the little things like that. Yeah, you do catch, but I think that's nitpicking to the nth degree.
And that's what I just did because I don't really have much to say negative. It's one of my favorites. So
yeah, Craig, what do you got?
Honestly, my major gripe was Wayne Knight, and outside of that, it's hard to. I'd be really picking at things. For the most part, I really enjoy this film, and I tend to agree with you, Scott, that Jeff Goldblum for me is just Jeff Goldblum in all of his roles. But in this particular time, I'm okay with that because this was towards the beginning of him just becoming Jeff Goldblum-y and everything.
And it worked to the eccentricness character of Dr. Malcolm.
Yeah, and so it was a good juxtaposition with Grant for sure. And I guess that I could come up with like some little nitpicks here and there, but just think about I'm surprised that none of us even mentioned the kitchen scene as one of our favorite scenes because, God, talk about a terrifying scene when you were a kid. Like those kids running away from those velociraptors and them jumping up on the tabletops and everything like that, and just everything about that is terrifying. So I really, other than Wayne Knight, this view, I don't have any other gripes that I can say.
I can I real quick because you mentioned the kitchen scene. One thing, if I would have to say, you have the CGI and you're really showing how agile these Velociraptors are, and then when Tim is running away in the kitchen and it goes back to the feet, which was somebody in a costume running after him, it's like that's not an agile dinosaur at all. So I guess that'd be a nitpick.
I think you're crazy. Honest to God. I think you're crazy on that. I know you're just trying to grasp at straws here, but I'm just going to beat you up right now because that scene holds up so well, and it's because they're using a mixture of a lot of different elements to get it done. They're using the animatronics, they're using costumes, they're using a little bit of CGI, and all of that put together makes it a very intense scene. And it makes and this is the movie that did it, obviously, it makes the Velociraptor cooler than the T-Rex.
Yeah.
And that is very, very, very hard to do. And now we know the Velociraptor really didn't even exist the way that we thought it did. But for that film, it makes sense, and it makes it into a character where at the end, another scene none of us talked about, but at the end where you have the T-Rex versus the Velociraptor, because they have hyped up the Velociraptor the entire movie, that scene has more weight to it than if it was a T-Rex versus any other kind of dinosaur, because as kids, and it may not be the same now, I don't know what dinosaurs are cool for kids nowadays, but for us, the T-Rex was it. And it was basically because it was the biggest one that was known. And so when you have to give it something to fight off, that Velociraptor was nothing to anybody until that film, and they were able to build it up using all that. So I think you're crazy.
It's not. They were still. Hey, they were a formidable foe. I'm not getting to that. Just never. I'm not. Just
yeah. You're just wrong. Move on. It's fine. It's fine. I already beat up on Jeff Goldblum. Ian Malcolm as a character is fine by me. I think he gets more to do in the books. Ironically, he dies in the first book, but then because Crichton liked him so much, he brings him back by saying they did really good CPR when they were. Book. yeah. The first couple chapters of Lost World is trying to retcon the fact that Ian Malcolm died in the book. And it's kind of funny. They're like, yeah, he was kind of dead, and we brought him back. But so I'm not going to harp on that one again. The only other thing that I did not like about this, it stands out a lot to me now, and it's really just the '90s type of character, and that is Lex as the I'm a hacker, because knowing how to type on a keyboard does not make you a hacker. And when she says, "Oh, I know this, it's Linux," I'm just like, or Unix. I'm just like, that's an operating system, sweetheart. That's not anything to be proud of.
It's a Unix system.
Yeah, congratulations. It's not Windows 3.1. Woo!
You want another plot hole for me?
Oh.
They're sitting there wanting to get the gun, and Timmy's sitting there trying to encourage his sister, slapping the back of the chair, like, go get the gun, you moron.
But along with that, her character in general, and I know she's just the kid, and she's supposed to be there to bring the kids into it, her and Tim both. But they play her off as so dumb that it's just annoying. You have to explain to a person one time what an herbivore is and a carnivore is. Understood. Okay, maybe you didn't get that in school yet, and okay, we'll explain it. But then they do it 3 or 4 times in the movie where, is he a Metasaurus? What does he eat? I'm like,
a Metasaurus?
Yeah, I'm just like, this is getting old and tedious. All the kids watching the movie already know what these things are. So stop trying to use her as the outlet for people who don't understand what dinosaurs eat, because it's obvious that the cute looking ones are not going to eat you and the scary looking ones are. So move on. So it's nitpicky, but her character just always is kind of a nail on a chalkboard to me. And it's, yeah. And I think they do it better with Malcolm's kid in the second film. They make her less annoying, except for the gymnastics scene. But that's a whole nother thing. Anything else you guys want to hit on with Jurassic Park before we talk a little bit about its franchise?
For me, you talked about the science. There's so many different layers to this movie that you can watch it in different aspects and talk about it. But I mean, this movie is not just about the awe spectacle of seeing dinosaurs and all that other stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different morality issues. Like, you can take different speeches because it's so well written, like Craig said, and just break those scenes down and talk about what is going on in that particular scene. Like, there's a scene where Malcolm's in the car and he goes, God creates dinosaurs, God destroys dinosaurs, God creates man, man destroys God, man creates dinosaurs, dinosaurs eat man, woman inherit the earth. I mean, that's huge. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that this movie isn't just it's actually a movie that has substance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those few and far between smart popcorn movies. And I think it's because it's a Spielberg thing, and the fact that he created the blockbuster film with Jaws, he's able to do this. He does it in other films too. The Indiana Jones series, except for the last one, is very smart for the same reason. And he does that with a lot of his big budget stuff, to where you get in with the characters, and I think that's what makes him an amazing director. Because he can give you that kind of insight into these folks, and that banter really pays off. Obviously, you need a good script too, but it's that direction and the great actors make it happen as well.
Do you guys know that Spielberg did a throwback to himself? Did you guys see what movie Newman was watching on his computer? He's watching Jaws. Have you guys see that?
No.
One of the windows he has open is he's watching Jaws. So
I do like the fact that when he's talking to the guy at the ship, it's an actual QuickTime video, and the scroll bar is going, even though it's a live video.
Right. How much longer you have left on this video?
Oh man, I'm just like, okay. Obviously, you couldn't do too much on the screen like that, but you could at least like cropped out the little play bar.
We spent too much money on CGI for the dinosaurs. We can't crop out a bar.
Craig, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think that we've hit on just about all of it. Wonderful film, and it really defined that action movie in the 90s. I mean, it's one of those that is a fantastic one to go back and watch, and led to multiple others. And I know we're going to start talking about those, but it is really cool to see a lot of those little nods to the original in Jurassic World. I was one, I know you and I have talked about this a little bit already, kind of segue into it, but in particular, I really, really enjoyed Jurassic World, and I still do.
Amen.
Even after watching it a few times, because some people were like, well, maybe it was just, nostalgia goggles or whatever, but I really enjoyed it. I liked, I'm the Disney guy, right? So I loved that basically they made it into Disney World for dinosaurs, because I think that's what Crichton was originally intending Jurassic Park to be, right?
Yeah, well, and that's and you hit on my favorite line in Jurassic Park that I forgot to mention with that, where Hammond is talking to Malcolm and he says, even Disneyland had its problems, and Malcolm points out, yes, but when Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the guests. But and what we'll do is I just want to kind of rapid fire our reactions to the three other follow-up films, Lost World 3 and then Jurassic World, and then talk a little bit about what we're expecting, because Jurassic World is a trilogy. They've already said Jurassic World 3 will be out 2021. So we'll talk about what we're expecting for Fallen Kingdom, not Lost Kingdom, and then part 3. But I also, at the very end of this, we'll rank our films too and see if anyone wants to take the plunge and say that Jurassic Park is not the best of them. So let's rapid fire this sucker and talk about Lost World, Jurassic Park 2, which was directed by Spielberg. Obviously not as a financial success as Park was, but a success enough to warrant a third. And so anything you guys want to talk about Lost World?
I'll go first real quick.
Please.
Lost World, with Jurassic Park and how much money it made, they told Crichton, here's some money, write a sequel. He did. And then they gave it. I can't remember. Did he write Lost World 2? I know he wrote Jurassic Park for the screenplay, but did he do?
I can find out. Continue talking.
Real quick though. He wrote Jurassic Park with David Cope. David Cope came on and wrote Lost World. And I am so glad that he had a cameo in this movie, because in that cameo he is eaten by the T-Rex, and I cannot thank heavens for that, because I liked it. It was a good movie, but some of the stuff that they just did in that movie, I'm just like, why would you write this? Like, why? So the fact that the screenwriter had a cameo and ends up, he's the guy running and tries to run in the building and then gets eaten, that was perfect for me. So I liked Lost World. Not my fave. I think they Universal just kind of pushed Spielberg to try to make it better than Jurassic Park. And there you kind of run into some issues. So,
yeah, the screenplay for Lost World was written by David Cope, and Crichton put out the book 2 years earlier in 1995.
So it was just Cope that wrote it.
Yeah, Cope wrote the screenplay.
Some of the decisions they made were not best for writing.
Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest with you, I haven't went back and revisited Lost World or Jurassic Park 3 in a long time, so I don't remember too much about those films because I see them as basically being written off after Jurassic World came out. Like, at this point, we no longer need to concern ourselves with these other films, which is why I'm okay even if Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom ends up being slightly like or very much like Lost World, only because for me, I don't remember those films because it wasn't something that I really held on to. So if they can do the same kind of a story but tell it better, I'm okay with that. Because again, I really enjoyed Jurassic World. God,
you just keep jumping ahead, dude.
I'm sorry, but I haven't seen the other ones in so long.
Well, then hold your hold.
All right. I will.
Because I have.
Pass.
Yeah, I just watched Lost World not too long ago.
Yeah, no, I and for me, the frustrating thing with Lost World is I was one of the people who read the book before the movie came out, because the book came out in 95. And again, as Ryan pointed out correctly, that Crichton wrote the sequel because fans of the books already wanted a sequel, but then the film was such a huge hit that he had to write the sequel. And the sequel book is not as strong as Jurassic Park, which most sequels are not, but the book does a lot more to flesh out the characters. Yes. Ian Malcolm is the main protagonist. Yep. He has 2 children, not one. So the film makes the children into amalgam into one daughter. But there's a lot more interplay between the InGen, the company that made the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, and then also Biosyn, which is the other company that is just kind of hinted at in the movies. And Hammond is dead. He died in the book, Jurassic Park. So there's also interplay there too, with InGen being taken over by other folks as well too. So there's a lot more dealing with the corporations, and the whole King Kong thing of bringing the dinosaur to the mainland.
Ridiculous.
was stupid.
It was a cop out.
It was, and I haven't read the book in 20 years, but I don't even think it's in the book.
They don't leave the island.
They don't leave the island. Yeah, it's the other island. It's the Beta Island.
Ila Sorna.
Yes. So the whole bring them to, I think it was San Francisco or San Diego. One of the sands. Yeah, it just falls apart, and it turns into a Godzilla movie. And not only does it turn into a Godzilla movie, it's only like the last 15 minutes of the film. So it's tacked on for trailer fodder, because I remember the trailer, they had the T-Rex running around eating cars or something.
It was the bus.
Yeah, and so they had to do that for the trailer, but when you watch in the movie, that's the last 15 minutes of the film. And I get a lot more of watching people get ate by, different dinosaurs on the island. And I like the idea of the interplay, and it was more of the same thing that Jurassic World does better, and the idea that we have created this monster of our own making, much like Frankenstein's monster. Now Frankenstein's monster is dealing with us as much as we're dealing with it. So Lost World for me was a disappointment because I liked the book much more.
See, and for me, I just thought that it was just way too as a kid, again, way too oversaturated with dinosaurs. You got the compies, nice little cute, but they'll rip your face off. Mm-hmm. Instead of one T-Rex, we have two and a baby. And then, instead of 3 Velociraptors, we've got a whole long grass just infested with them.
Well, and I will say that the T-Rex children were handled better in the book too. But yeah, I agree with you. In the movie, it's kind of like, yeah. Now the cherry picker scene's fun, where they're up in the tower.
Yeah.
That's a fun scene. The worst scene of the movie is the Velociraptor gymnastics scene, because as I hyped on already, you built up the Velociraptor to be this end-all be-all man-eating machine.
He's in it for 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's smarter than every other one. It's smarter than the humans. It's going to hunt you. You're not being hunted, and it's not being hunted. It's hunting you. And then the girl does a little gymnastic flip and kicks it in the face and kicks it out the window.
If you watch that, because I just watched it, but if you watch it as she's sitting there and the camera is focused on her, you see Goldblum here, you see the raptor right here, and she's doing her thing right here, and the raptor's just straight looking at her. If a raptor would have leapt on her and taken her out, there's no question. Stop trying to build her up, okay? You're just trying to get the gag of they kicked you off the team. Stop it.
Well, let's keep moving so Craig can join the conversation again in another film. But
we got one more to do, Craig. Sorry.
Quick, Jurassic Park 3. I already mentioned my 2 points, that it is the stronger of the 2 sequels for Jurassic Park for me.
I remember them being on a river.
Yeah, and actually, yes, and that was the other piece I wanted to hit on. Obviously, bringing back Sam Neill. And for those who haven't seen it, the whole idea is a father and son are trapped on Isla, whatever the hell it is.
It's just the son.
They don't know that. They don't know that, though.
Oh, sorry.
The father and son get trapped on the island. The father gets taken out quickly. But the family sends Sam Neill to go try to find the father and son, and the father is already dead, and they do get the son back. But Sam Neill being there is important, but also that boat scene is taken out of the Jurassic Park book.
Yep.
Because technology wasn't there yet for Jurassic Park. They didn't have any of the flying dinosaurs in the first film. In the book, the pterodactyls and everything deal a lot more into the story, and the Sam Neill's character and the kids are on a raft through part of the story trying to get back to the main headquarters of the island when they get separated. So that being put into Joe Johnston's Jurassic Park 3 made it a more interesting film for me, because I got to see a scene that was really fun from the book.
Another scene, well, I'll talk about that during Jurassic World that was in the book, but they played a homage in Jurassic World. But what I really liked in Jurassic Park 3, they had the dinosaurs, but they did it in a better way than they didn't force it down your throat like they did with Lost World. Just like the scene where they're on the river, and then, Grant's talking to the little kid, and they're talking about, do you want to be an astronaut or a paleontologist? And as they're saying this, they stop and they see all these dinosaurs. And you have that really cheesy where the Brachiosaur comes down and gets really close. You're like, okay, this isn't a 3D movie. Stop it. But The Spinosaurus was great. I think they tried to do a little bit too much. Oh, here's a T-Rex. It's dead because the Spinosaurus is way worse, which is fine. It worked.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't necessarily enjoy is the whole raptor speaking to each other. You're trying to explain something, organized attack patterns, but trying to have Sam Neill blow on something and be a raptor. And then, of course, on the plane, when he's having his dream, the raptor is actually saying, "Alan." So
you've had some bad dreams. It's a bad scene in the
Our
movie.
raptors are speaking English to me.
Well, you got to do some better drugs, sir. That's all I'm saying.
I guess.
But with that whole piece was that film trying to do something, and as you mentioned, Jurassic World does it better, and that is they're trying to explain the changes in our knowledge of dinosaurs between the 1990 book and now, nearly a decade later. And the idea being that we are learning more about these fossils. We're learning that T-Rex wasn't the only big dinosaur on the block. And we're learning about how we're making more theories about this. And this Jurassic Park 3 tries to shoehorn that stuff in.
Yeah.
And that's what I do like about Jurassic World the most, I think, is it's a one-off little quote in the film. But they're like, if we were trying to make these things real, we would make them look different, but you just want more teeth. So we're making them look like they did back then.
It validates Dr. Grant, so kind of gives him purpose and everything.
Yes.
So.
Okay, Craig.
All right, you'll start.
What
Jurassic World.
What about Jurassic World?
I was not on Facebook. What? Jurassic World. It's a good film. It's got Chris Pratt in it and Bryce Dallas Howard, and there's like this annoying lady that gets eaten. No, I really did enjoy this film quite a bit, and I liked Blue, if only for it made me remember the time we could yell, "You're my boy, Blue," and that it would make sense in a movie. But I really enjoyed that it had nods to the original. I loved when they found the original Jeep. Like, that was such a cool, of course, little things like that were going to happen throughout the film, but I thought that was so neat. And then just it seemed to live up to Jurassic Park to me. Like, it was grand in scope, and again, I liked the writing. I liked the character development that they had going on. I did think that the villain was better than Newman. So, so I enjoyed Jurassic World quite a bit.
If Vanessa Ferguson's still watching the live feed, thank you for the GIF. It's quite nice. She says she laughed at our song very hard. I don't know what song she's referring to. Maybe
probably me being, trying to be a piano. Okay, so since he's singing, I'm gonna say what I think about Jurassic World.
Please.
When I was a kid and you saw the Brachiosaurus, that whole music swelling was good. But for me, I got absolute chills when they played that song when they're arriving at the island. And the moment the boy opens the door and the music swells up, straight up.
Okay, this is all fun, Craig, but people can't understand what he's saying on the podcast. So stop.
I was emphasizing his point.
Straight up goosebumps. I like that this movie ignores sequels 2 and 3. Isla Sorna didn't exist. They came back to Isla Nublar and built everything up. They have the same T-Rex who now has battle scars from battling the Velociraptors. They have a Mosasaurus, which I love giant sea creatures, so that was pretty cool. But what remains for me is the fact that when you tamper with science, bad things happen. And that theme is still played on in Jurassic World. And just, I don't know if it was a nostalgia, but it just made it its own movie, because in the first one, they're just getting DNA. Well, now they're mixing DNA to sell a profit. And so to me, they just took the theme and just made it even better. So,
yeah, and I always come off as the hater on Jurassic World for people who hear me, but it's not that I don't.
It can't be perfect.
Yeah, I don't dislike the film. It's just it doesn't hold up for me as much as I was hoping for. Jurassic World and it came out I think the same year, close to the same year, is much like Force Awakens. Is that it feeds off nostalgia to where it actually takes scenes from the original and redoes them. You have the end fight between the T-Rex and the Velociraptor for a few seconds in Jurassic Park. That is up the ante huge when it comes to having the Velociraptors, T-Rex, and the Adonis, whatever the hell it is. Whenever I hear its name, I think of Creed, Adonis Creed. So you have that. I do like the homages. I think my biggest issue with the film is the characters are just not as enjoyable to me, and that means any of the characters are not as enjoyable to me as the originals. I don't think Bryce Dallas Howard can act at all.
She can run the heels though.
No, don't. Just wait. Just wait, sir. I haven't ranted yet about the damn heels. But she's very wooden in this, and I know she's supposed to be coming off as somebody who's, socially inept, but you don't get to run the PR side of a company like this without having to, any kind of people skills, and she has none. And Chris Pratt is fun as Chris Pratt, but he's playing Chris Pratt. He's Star-Lord with Velociraptors, and I was hoping for more of a different character from him. And you get that a little bit at the beginning when he's training the Velociraptors. He's very professional. He's a Navy guy. He's learned how to deal with these Velociraptors. He knows how to utilize them, and he's afraid that the company is going to misuse them. But when you have him and Dallas Howard together at his little bungalow, he just turns into Star-Lord, and it's annoying as hell. And so there's no chemistry there. There's no chemistry there. The kids are less fun than Lex and Tim. I think the funnest piece of the entire movie is the CEO, which they bounce into in the aviary and kill him off. He's fun. But so, there's nothing for me to latch on to there. And I don't like the whole idea of the hybrids. And I know that's what they're going with now. And the idea that you have to get more fun into the park because people get bored and they say it's like going to the zoo anymore. So you got to get something that's bigger and meaner and everything else. But the hybrid thing is just, it's a shtick that gets annoying right away for me. And I'm okay with the dinosaur getting killed at the end because I didn't like it to begin with. It wasn't scary. It was just something that was dumb. And as much as we made fun of the no locks on the cars in Jurassic Park, what theme park ever will put together a geosphere ride where you get to control the ride yourself, and when the park shuts down, it doesn't have an autopilot to bring you back to the loading area? What? Really? We're going to let that one go, but we're going to complain about the first movie? Really?
Plot hole.
That's not plot hole. That's stupid writing.
Okay. So, you talked about the characters. I have to rebuttal and say, B.D. Wong and how he goes from,
because he's from Jurassic Park, so he's great.
No, from mild mannered to I'm in the business of doing this now. I got my hands dirty. I'm dirty scientist. I'm Frankenstein, as you put it, Scott. To me, he was great. And you mentioned the aviator. That was the scene I was alluding to. Was that in Lost World or was that in Jurassic Park?
I think it was Jurassic Park.
Okay, so in Jurassic Park, there's a helicopter and some of the pterodactyls get out, or pterodons, whatever, and they literally fly up to the helicopter and stick their nose through the windshield and hit the pilot, and that happens in Jurassic World. So I'm glad they played homage to that. So.
Agreed. Yeah, but no, B.D. Wong's great because his character arc is amazing, and I want to know what he eats where he doesn't age. Because a really bad haircut in Jurassic World, dude hasn't aged a minute. and I do like, and I'm hoping that they deal with that more in the coming films, and this fact that InGen or maybe another shadow company, because it comes off in the movie that B.D. Wong may not be working for InGen, he's working for another company. I don't know how that's going to play out, but that'd be interesting. But no, and this is the stuff I harp on that kind of makes it to where it's not a classic for me like the other ones. And yes, the heels. It's a running joke There's
Quite literally.
There's no way in hell that she would have been able to bounce around the woods in those things, let alone, and the juxtaposition of Laura Dern's one little scene where she says, "We'll talk about the tenets of sexism when I get back," to Bryce Dallas Howard, who has the same personality as the chalkboard in one of the classrooms, where she sits there and she ties up her shirt and does her little thing. Even Chris Pratt looks at her like, what is that supposed to mean? It's you're making that character into a joke, and when she's your only female protagonist that doesn't get 8, it annoys the shit out of me. Anything else in Jurassic World? All right, let's wrap this sucker up with 2 things. One, I want you to rate the movies. Craig, you're going to have a big gap since you don't remember 2 of them, but rank them. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're hoping to see in Jurassic World that some of us will see next week. And Craig, you say you're going to wait for it to come out the video. So let's go ahead and rank these suckers first. And let's see if any of you 2 are going to make the plunge. Ryan, what do you got?
So I'll start with 4. 4 will be Lost World. 3 will be Jurassic Park 3. And Jurassic World, and number 1 is Jurassic Park.
Okay. Craig?
I will have the same list as Ryan because Ryan's in this instance, he knows his dinosaurs. He listed off like 12 dinosaurs, and I couldn't even remember what the big neck was.
It was Littlefoot.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even remember that. So I'm going to go with what he said. But really, Jurassic Park stands alone. Yeah. There's no others. Nothing's going to touch it. And then Jurassic World, I really enjoyed. 3 is the one that I remember the other 2 the most because I did see both of the films. It's just been a while. And then Lost World, I remember people were not very happy. And when I mean people, like there was like a 13-year-old Scott running around the house just screaming about
that's not
about heels and running or something like that.
There was no heels in Lost World.
He was just so mad about it even back then. He was so mad about it.
My anger grew as I got older, but and just to show how much I love Don Bluth, I don't remember any of the dinosaur names either, but I can tell you it's Littlefoot, Petrie, Ducky. You guys are like staring at me like, what?
No, I know Littlefoot and
Petrie and Ducky.
And Ducky.
What was the big guy?
And Vanilla Ice.
Was it Thump? No.
My rankings are the same, and I as much as I just harped on Jurassic World, it's an enjoyable film. It's the only one of the sequels that I would go back and watch again, and I just watched it with my kid a few days ago because I had her watch Jurassic Park and then Jurassic World, skipping over the other 2 because I didn't think they were worthwhile as well. So let's talk a little bit about, real quick, what we're looking forward to or hoping. What is that?
Sorry. I was trying to check the Cubs game.
They're down. Sorry.
Okay.
3-0, sadly. We already won the series, so Jeremy, bite me. Okay, so let's talk about things we're looking forward to and maybe things we're not looking forward to with Jurassic World, The Fallen Kingdom. Craig, what do you got?
I'd like to see a continuation. I'm looking forward to. I liked the dynamic between Pratt and Howard. I enjoyed that. I want to see more of that whole idea and concept of trying to commercialize this park to the extreme. And so I'm excited to see where the story goes from there because I like that as a concept. And if that means that, these companies are fighting against each other and one of them decides that they want to try to basically militarize these dinosaurs, which was sort of the whole point of Jurassic World, then that could be pretty cool to see. I may enjoy that as an action film.
Ryan, what do you got?
So again, Jurassic Park and its subsequent sequels have a big place in my heart. I've seen almost every trailer, every bit, and I've kind of pieced together what the movie's going to be like. I'm still going to be in shock and awe of it. I'm expecting a spectacle. Does that make sense? I'm going to be riveted. To me, I'm really happy that they're going to have the Mosasaurus out in the world. That scene with the surfers scares the ever living piss out of me. I'm 32 years old, but that's kind of stuff I like. If I were to have nightmares, that would be my nightmares, to get fly by a sea creature.
Would it say hello to you in English?
Right, Alan. No, but like that's frightening. But like, I'm interested to see how they're going to handle the dinosaurs on the mainland. Are they just going to do another San Diego like Lost World, or are they going to give it meaning and purpose? Which from the trailers, I honestly think that's what we're going to see. I'm hopeful. I'm excited, and I can't wait. So,
yeah, and for me, I'm torn on this because the cynic in me says this is Lost World again because it's the same beats. They go back to the island. The dinosaurs are taken off the island. They go into the real world, and stuff happens. And the end of the movie, the dinosaurs go back to the island or whatever.
I don't think that's going to happen.
That's the cynic in me. But I will say, the first trailer did absolutely nothing for me. The volcano and them running from dinosaurs, absolutely nothing for me. It's when the second trailer came out and they showed that, yes, the dinosaurs are going to go to the mainland. That's when I got interested. As much as I don't want to rehash a Lost World, I also am tired of the island. I need to have more. And the Velociraptor or whatever that is in the kid's bedroom, the stuff like that could be very interesting to me. I'm hoping again that they do more of the dynamics with the companies and the interplay between that and what Engine's doing and what the military is trying to do. And I'm pretty sure that's what part 3 is going to be about. This is going to be the dinosaurs are running amok in the real world, and then part 3 is what they've been building towards since Lost World, when the company went back to militarize the dinosaurs, and that is actually what happens when you try to militarize these things. And that will be what part 3 is about. So if they do it well, I'm excited for it. I think there's a lot of pitfalls that they can run into. I'm hoping they don't rehash another this nostalgic piece again. And I'm not going to beat the dead horse on Star Wars, but one of the reasons why I like Last Jedi so much is because it didn't do that. It changed the dynamic. It's okay. You had your nostalgia. We all kind of enjoyed seeing everything over again. And now let's change the subject. I'm hoping that Lost or Fallen Kingdom changes the dynamic as we move forward and makes this franchise something new. The other thing I'm kind of concerned about is the Ian Malcolm piece, because he's only in one scene and they're really hyping him up, but everything we've seen of him in the trailers is it addressing Congress. Yeah. So I'm afraid that's just going to be like another like little, ooh, here's somebody who's old. Let's show him for 5 minutes. And it's just going to kind of pull me out of the movie.
Let's go back to everything that he's been harping on over the last 2 movies, or that he's.
Well, that's fine, but he should be more involved in it. And I hope he is more involved with it. As much as I said I don't really like Jeff Goldblum, I want that character to be involved in the story. Don't just tack him on there because you want to, fan wank us. Give a reason for him to be in there. And that the trailer so far tell me it's going to be more fan wank than it's going to be story driven.
Right.
Anything else you guys want to add before we end this long discussion?
Not that long, only an hour.
About an hour. Yeah. Hour 10.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Craig's ready to go to sleep on his couch.
I said everything I need to say.
All right, well, you can find us at thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. You can email us at thefrontrowmoviereviews@gmail.com. And we are always loving your feedback. As you've seen, we've had a couple episodes of Flashbacks in a row, so we are back, and we mean it this time. One of these days we will do Willow, Ryan, I promise. Craig, can we talk about stuff, or should we wait on stuff?
I would wait on stuff.
Okay, stuff is coming that's going to be cool and fun. And the leadership may not let me call it a flashback, but damn it, it's a flashback. And so I'm going to use it as a flashback. And I will just leave it at that. Everyone's like, huh? What? Just wait and see. It's going to be fun. If you have any ideas that you want to hear us talk about in movies from the 80s and from the 90s, because I blew Ryan's mind when I said we were doing Jurassic Park. He's like, oh, we can do stuff from the 90s? I'm like, yes. Yes.
Super pumped now. Glad to be part of Flashbacks.
It's 2 decades of films. I'm more of an 80s kid, but we can do 90s stuff too. I really want to do some 80s stuff coming up, but we can do some 90s stuff too. Yes, we'll do Willow, I promise. And then for October, I've been saying it for 3 years, I'm going to do Monster Squad.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So until next time, again, you can find us on the website. Please give us your feedback. We love it. And if you're listening to us on the podcast version, please make sure to subscribe and give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever your podcast feed of choices. Those reviews really help us move up in the search engines and get more people to listen to us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notify button. This episode was filmed live, and we do that quite a bit. And so if you hit the notify button, you'll be told when we go live so you can join the conversation. Until next time, I'm Scott, and with me has been
Ryan.
And Craig.
Nobody cares.
God, that's usually my line. Damn.
There are dinosaurs, great big dinosaurs.
Is that from the
There
musical?
are dinosaurs right there. Watch out, dinosaurs. There are dinosaurs. Be careful, dinosaurs.